Hello, welcome to a sort of special edition of White Guilt. As you notice, no Gerard in sight.
I'm not Gerard.
No. But you probably know June. If you've watched some of our White Guilt episodes, we always have June come in when we can. But I really wanted to do a women and race kind of conversation.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I just like White Guilt and talking to Gerard is just like we can have these uncomfortable conversations and really talk about things. And there's a lot of women issues too. And I don't know, there's just so many things I feel like we don't address or talk about, or we feel a little bit uncomfortable. And so we don't want to ask somebody else, like, what's your experience or what, so I just thought this might be really helpful for you and I and everybody else to kind of like have some uncomfortable conversations.
Yes, just women.
Yeah,
because it's a different thing. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm just jumping right in. But it's a different thing to have a conversation with a man about how black women feel. Again, I can't speak for the African diaspora. I can only speak for June, but at least I can lend my experiences and what I've gone through. And you can only get those kinds of answers woman to woman.
Yeah, that's right. And the same here. Like, obviously we can't speak for everybody, but at least we can speak.
Yeah.
And our experiences are not, inclusive to ourselves. Like lots of other women of many different races have different experiences. And so hopefully that'll touch on, and we're hoping a lot of men watch this too, because also you may have questions too that you feel weird asking women. So certainly, like, please comment questions, because we will go in there and we will answer them. But I feel like we don't have these conversations enough.
Yeah.
So, okay, what do you want to first talk about, Jim?
I just want to talk about Magic Mice Productions. Hello. I want to say hi, Stan. I want to talk about women that have been labeled a Karen. Everyone has a different idea of what a Karen is. So I'll say mine and you can say yours.
Okay.
I believe a Karen is somebody who is nosy and doesn't know how to mind her business, and doesn't know how to stay in her lane. Okay, so so there have been times when Karens have called the police on a group of black people when it looks like they're having too much fun, they're having a barbecue, and I don't know if they live in this neighborhood, they shouldn't be here, or if they see, I just read this today about a young black man who was the babysitter for two white kids. And he was taking these kids to the park and so forth. And this woman called the police on the black guy and told the police, he looks suspicious. You should ask those children if they're okay. That could have gone sideways. Thank goodness he was a respectable, he was respectful to the police officer. The kids were just like, no, he's he's Timmy or whatever his name was. And he takes care of us every day and blah, blah, blah. And it was no big deal. But that could have gone really bad.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things where the Karen thing is kind of a cute little funny thing, but it also can be very dangerous, like to the place where police are called and people get shot and things like that. So that's a scary thing to me. What is a Karen to you? And why do Karens exist? What makes them tick? And again, you can't speak for everybody.
Yeah.
Because you're not Melissa is not a Karen.
Thank you.
I can vouch for that.
Woo! No, but it also seems like part of the equation is also racist.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't realize they're racist, but thinking of people as other and not equal to. But I think for me also what Karens maybe suggest is do you think of Karens basically as white women?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, white women. That's what I pictured. Though I don't think it could be white men. And I say white more often than anybody else because I think white people are still a lot more entitled than other people. Not all white people, but there's a lot of white entitlement, and I think a Karen generally is middle class to upper class financially, is entitled but doesn't realize it, and is kind of clueless to other people and the environment around them, and is, whether they know it or not, and usually they don't, has some racist, at least subconsciously in their heads, values or thoughts. And don't trust anyone that's not white.
Yeah.
I think feels unsafe.
They come from a place of fear.
Yeah.
And it's scary. It's so sad. You know, a lot of black people make jokes about getting in an elevator with a white person, and the white person starts holding their purse. The white woman, let me be clear, holds her purse closer or whatever. And, you know, these guys are just like, what are you doing?
I do have a thought, though, because we're talking women, and elevators are a thing.
Yeah.
Which I try, and most of the time I do, but sometimes, like, you get in, as a woman, you get in an elevator, and I don't think about race. I think about sex way more than so. If a black woman comes in, or a white woman comes in, or any woman comes in, I don't really think about it. But the second I'm alone and a man comes in, and
No
it's
matter
just the
what
two
his
of us,
race is,
yes.
even if it's a white man.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And sometimes more. I don't know why, but sometimes more.
Wow. Yeah.
But I think. Yeah, and so
now that's a woman thing, and that's why we're having this
Yeah.
conversation, because there are so many similarities that black women and white women and Spanish-speaking women. I have to say it like that because I can't say Latina. Well, I guess I can, but sometimes people are like, oh, we don't want to be called that, we don't want to be called this, and I don't know what to call, so I just say Spanish-speaking, because that way I cover. If you speak
smart.
Spanish, I'm talking about you. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
Asian women, but all women, I think. If it's late at night, walking to their car in a dark garage, you know what I mean, at the end of the day, trying to go to in a parking garage, or even walking from the subway or walking from whatever, all women have that feeling against any man, whether he's black, white, whatever he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that we have in common.
Yep.
And I think it would be great if black women and white women and all different race of women could come together on the things that we do have in common.
Yeah. And you know what? I think, you know, this brings up, you know what pisses me off is when women, because there are, you know, there's value to our fear because we do get attacked and raped and kidnapped, you know.
Yeah, it's legitimate.
But then there's the white Karens, women that this was years ago, and luckily she was prosecuted because of it. But that, you know, the guy that asked her to put her dog on the black man that asked her to, it was a black man that asked a white woman in New York just to put her dog on a leash, which is the law.
Yes.
And she used her privilege to threaten him and then call and say she was afraid of him, which obviously she wasn't because she was threatening him. And obviously, luckily, that worked out.
It didn't go sideways.
Yes.
It could have.
And she was prosecuted for it. But that really drives me crazy because it pulls away from but women, not in that situation, but women do have different experiences with men and do have to be more afraid if you're in Central Park walking at night or by yourself or whatever. But that dilutes that, I feel like. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
So, but for me, it's never about, I hope. I say that, but I don't want to say with a certainty. It's never about race, but it is about men, and sometimes about the way the men dress. I don't know why. Like if I'm on a street and I see a construction worker, those, you know, and it's usually a white guy, the beard. I don't know. I have this thing like
I love beards.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. But I have had unpleasant experiences with construction guys
because they like to say, "Hey, sweetie," "Hey, honey," catcalling.
Catcalling. Yeah. Generally, I don't think that's ever been a black man. That's either been a white man or a Spanish-speaking man.
Yeah.
And after a while, I started then I would avoid the white construction men, you know, because those experiences. I'm sure there's plenty of fabulous, you know, but that was or when I was in LA. Just so many bad experiences and almost an assault when I was working as a waitress from a Spanish-speaking dishwasher. And he cornered me in the freezer and tried to kiss me. And
what?
I know.
What?
And then when I reported it, my two supervisors went and asked him if it happened. He said no. And they're like, well, we can't write him up. He said no.
What?
I was like, why would I lie about that? And I've been an employee for years, but they just didn't take it seriously.
Right. And that's something that black women and white women and all women can go ahead and say, yes, we've all been there with that. Those are things. That's why if we could just come together. Can you imagine if women just came together?
Yeah.
First of all, we're no longer a minority. You know that, right? Like, we are 51% or something. You know what I mean? We are not the minority anymore, especially in this country. Now, I don't know about around the world, but I would say that there's way more women only because of wars and because men are imprisoned more than we are and whatever. You know what I mean? Women are the ones running the show.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could come together and realize that we have the same kinds of fears, but we also, and we got to come together as far as knowing, let's talk about pay. I'm just jumping around right now. Talk about pay inequity. A lot of it, and I learned this the hard way, is because we don't ask for a better salary when we take a job. Because we haven't been taught to do that. If they tell us this is the salary, we're like, oh, okay, that's the salary. Men don't do that. Men are like, well, what kind of wiggle room do we have in that? Well, okay, I need about at least 10,000 more because I have X, Y, Z. And men get it because they ask. We have to teach our young daughters and teach other women and teach each other that we have to ask. Now, I'm not saying that automatically we're going to make the same amount as men, but men ask for more. And they're willing to walk away if they don't get it.
Yeah. But don't you think, again, this plays into the women, like let's say it's a single mom, she can't walk away. The dad or the guy maybe can. I'm just wondering, like, if that plays into it. Do you think,
it does, but I'm talking about like on an executive level. I'm not talking about working at, you know what I mean? I'm talking about
I'm just saying,
where we know that if all things being equal. This is one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize with regards to why women make less. Sometimes women are not hired because they're too attractive. And the guy doesn't want to hire them because he doesn't want to be feeling funny around her and his wife will be mad or whatever. I've heard of that.
Oh.
There are times when women, you know what I mean? They don't want to hire a person that their wife is going to be upset about. There are times when go ahead.
Women, it just brings back to, because I do want to ask you, but I do want to go back to that. But how do we solve the women thing? Because then that goes back, because then that's really a woman, the wife.
Exactly. The wife is causing that other woman not to get a job because she's jealous that she's right. That's a woman thing.
And there is this weird competition, like not wanting other women to get ahead. There's just this weird, and I don't know if it's stronger. Like I want to address that. Plus, I want to address like white women and black women, and is there more there? But like, how do we? I just feel like there's got to be a way. And I'm not saying I don't fall into the like getting jealous or competition thing.
We all do. That's human.
But how do we bring women together to support each other so then we can all ask for more pay? We can all, take care of these things.
One of my favorite stories is about Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe. Do you know this story?
No. Marilyn
Monroe became good friends with Ella Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald was not allowed to sing at a certain club.
Yes.
You heard this?
Yes.
Marilyn Monroe used her privilege and her influence to go to the club owner and say, I will sit at that front table every night if you allow her to sing. Do you understand? Wow. That's a way that women can help each other.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's so many other stories that we don't know about, but that's the kind of thing. If you are in a place of privilege and you are in a place of influence and you can help another person who you know should have gotten the job, you got to speak up. We have to help each other.
Yeah.
I love that story. It's one of my favorite stories. I already loved Marilyn Monroe, but I love her even more after hearing that story.
Wow, and I wonder, so maybe it's happening more than we think, but it doesn't, it's not... The stories that sell, the stories that's on social media, whatever, is like more women catfighting or women, like, do you think it's because we don't hear those stories as much? And
that's why we have to keep telling those stories. Yeah. And that's why we have to look and research those stories. And that's how again, history. And I've said this before, a lot of racism in this country and around the world is because people don't know their history. Mm-hmm. There are so many accomplishments that women have done that we did not hear about in the history books. Just like we didn't hear about what black inventors have done or black scientists have done or whatever. We don't hear about it in the history books. There are stories of women who disguise as men in wars, have fought wars, including Harriet Tubman, disguised as a man and went undercover as a spy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things. If you don't know that, you won't
Yeah.
know that women are amazing. Women have done so much for this country. Women of all colors. Women have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there were a lot. I do know some, but there was a lot of women that were spies and rebels, and in World War II, all over the world. But yeah, we don't learn about them.
No. Because who's writing the books? Men.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do we help? How do we help women support women, and how do we help different races of women come together and support each other as well? Like, how do?
Well, this is opening up a dialogue and being
Yeah.
able to talk about it is number one.
Right. Okay.
I have not seen a whole lot of shows where a black woman and a white woman sat in a room and started talking about this. You know what I mean? When you think about, again, I got to go back into history. If you think about the black women who were raped by their slave owners, you have to think also about that white woman who was upstairs in the big house crying herself to sleep because her husband was doing this horrible thing and then coming back to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Both women suffered.
Yeah.
It could not have been easy for either one of them.
Right. I didn't think. Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he is going to do what he wants to do. And she had no power and she had no power. These women had no power.
Yeah.
So the only way we can come together is to talk about it. I love that Meryl Streep just came out with a new production company where she's doing something that's just for women filmmakers, women, artists that are coming out. She's, a lot of these women who, Jessica Chastain, I think really went to bat for getting the salaries of some of the other women and the help higher because she spoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love to hear these stories. I look for these stories.
Yeah.
We have to help each other. And there are so many things that are out there. People who are out there who are just giving grants or giving some sort of opportunities for women. We've got to look for these things and send it out. And I don't know, we've just got to create it. If we don't see it ourselves, we have to create it. We have to be the ones to help out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, okay, wrapping back to pay equity, like how do we help each other as women? One, as you're saying, like ask, find out. But how do we help, I guess? I mean, I don't think I knew, but again, I have a different, my jobs had a different trajectory. I worked like as a waitress or a nanny, and then I basically started my own business so I could pay myself what I wanted to be paid, right?
And we got to encourage women to do that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do remember being a waitress at like a sports bar or whatever and being passed up for the manager or whatever, like the higher position because he wanted to hire a guy.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I don't think I've experienced, now maybe, I mean, we were both actors, that's how we know each other. Maybe I paid a lot less doing some of my acting work. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, I guess
acting
I
is tricky. Acting is tricky. You want to be on TV and want to be in the film so badly that you're not going to say, "Oh no, I'm not taking it unless they pay this," when you're not already a star.
Yeah.
So that's different. But I'm talking about like corporate America where you go in and it's the kind of thing where they're just looking at these two resumes. Both resumes have the same kind of education, same kind of experience, same everything.
Yep.
And yet it's a matter of, do I really want to deal with a woman? I can't say my little dirty jokes around a woman. She's not going to get it. You know what I mean? This is real. This is the real stuff that men go through when they have to decide who they're going to choose.
Wow. Well, as opposed to like who would be a better employee. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I have to tell you something since we're both actors, but this kind of goes with that. I was talking with a casting director. And he said there was one of the producers, he's like, I feel really bad. There's this one actress that keeps auditioning for this show. It was, I don't remember the show anymore. But anyways, he said this poor actress was really good, but one of the producers was like, we're never going to hire her. She looks like my ex-wife.
Yes, I've heard that.
What?
I've heard things like that. And that is a real thing. But that's the same thing about going for a job in an office, too. If you remind them of their ex-wife Or if you know that your wife is not going to approve of you bringing this bombshell into the office, even if she is qualified, even if she's qualified, you cannot hire her because, again, that's the female thing that it works against us. Yeah, we have to figure it out.
Do you think women do the same thing? Like, do you think there's ever a female executive that's like, we can't hire that male actor because he looks like my ex-husband? Like, do you think that's a, yeah.
Yes.
So that happens too.
That's
All right.
human.
We gotta
That's
fix
human.
people.
We gotta fix people. We gotta fix people.
But I would think it happens more to women just because more men are still in power, I guess. I don't know.
And that's what we gotta change.
Yeah.
We need to be empowered. Like you said, you started your own company and you started your own business, and that's why you are able to do what you need to do. A lot of women are taught, oh, you don't want to do that because then you're never gonna get a husband. He's gonna be intimidated by you.
You know, I don't think anyone, maybe people said that to me, but I was like, well, if he's going to be intimidated by me, then I don't want to be
I don't want him anyway, right?
Really?
Right.
Why would I want that?
But this is real talk. I remember when I was a kid, I was, and I hate it to this day, I was doing some martial arts training, and these boys teased me like, oh, who are you? You do whatever. And I stopped because the boys teased me and I felt bad or whatever. And now to this day, I wish I had stayed with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and then I could kick their behinds. But you know what I mean?
That's right.
But this is the kind of stuff where, because women are kind of taught like, oh, that's too manly. That's too butch. You're too, whatever. Don't do that. But those are the very things we need to do to protect ourselves, self-defense. Every girl, every woman, everybody, everywhere needs to do self-defense.
Yeah.
For real.
Which leads into the I think one thing that a lot of women have in in what's the word? Again, I'm tired. In common.
Yes.
That's the word.
That's the word.
But in common that we don't always, like, we could really bond through this, but just is the fear that we live with every single day. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a small thing, because, and I look like, my husband will go out, like, get up early and run in the dark, and he'll do all these things. And I barely will do it during the day, but sometimes I want to, I think about, like, oh, I get up early and it's just beautiful out and I'd like to go for a walk. And this is a pretty safe neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I still will not go out and walk by myself.
Right.
And I know I'm older, but, I just,
there's something in us because of what either has happened to us in real life or what has happened to other women. Yeah. You're like, you know what? I hate to say it, but maybe she shouldn't have been out there that time of night, or maybe she shouldn't have been. And I hate that I say that. That's not fair, because men can go jogging anytime they want. Well, not if you're a black man. I always make sure.
That's true.
I tell my husband, please make sure to wear something brightly colored and whatever. You know what I mean? And that goes back to the racism, sexism thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When people would ask me what is more difficult, or what do you what's the word? What is the priority for you? Black issues or women issues? And I say, well, when my parents knew they were having a child, they knew they were having a black child. They didn't know it was going to be a boy or a girl, but they knew I'd be black. Mm-hmm. So I'm black first.
Yeah.
That's the way I rationalize it.
That's
now, that may not be for everybody else, but I'm black first, and then I'm a woman. Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. But again, I think I really identify as a woman first. Mm-hmm. Not always, there's two parts of that. Like, I have, so many, like, can't even list them all, incidences from doctors and construction workers and people, like, bosses, like, just sexual harassment, sexual assault, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So there's that part of me that just has put me, I have to think about being a woman all the time. Mm-hmm. Then there's the other half where I feel so good as a woman. Like, I really identify as a strong woman that owns my own business and maybe has gotten through a lot of awful things from men. Mm-hmm. So I think that's super strong on my mind, but maybe society, do you think, sees me first as white and then as female? Or does that
I see you first as white.
You do, yeah.
That's real talk.
Yeah. That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here
Yeah.
for.
Okay.
I see white people as white people first, and then I see anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny to me. There was this black lady that was married to a white man, and I said, you know, your husband said to me he doesn't see color. He doesn't see color with his wife or whatever. And she was like, I know he's white. I see him as color. It was so funny
Black
to me.
mirror.
Yeah, exactly. She was like,
Yeah.
he can say that all he wants.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? And I love that.
Yeah.
Because when people say to me, I don't see color, that to me, that stops the conversation for me. I don't talk to a person like that anymore. I'm like, okay, please excuse me. And I take my little purse and I'm out. I don't talk to people who say I don't see color. That is insane.
Also, color's beautiful.
Thank you.
They're like all of the color,
Thank
all of the
you.
different whiteness, all of the different brownness, all of the different
Yes.
blackness.
Thank you.
It would be so boring.
If everybody were the same.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. So I really have a problem with people who say I don't see color. And I know why they're saying it. And I know they're trying to come from a place of, they think they're giving me a compliment by saying that.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's annoying. And it's just not true.
And
Because you wouldn't be saying that to another white person. Do you say
That's
I don't
so
see color when you're with other white people? You're just saying that because you see me, clown. You know you see color.
that is, I love that. Oh my God, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and first of all, yes, we should all see color, but also society sees color. Like that is just anyway.
Yeah.
But of course,
Getting back to black
Yeah.
and white women specifically.
Yeah.
Let's talk about standards of beauty. In this country especially, but all around the world, because even in British Vogue and Italia Vogue, it was a long time before they had a black woman on the cover of those magazines either. The magazines, society, a lot of things have taught us that the standard of beauty is light skin and long hair. That's the standard of beauty. Now, there's some people say, "Oh no, I think a person with short hair is this," and I think you can say that all you want, but the overall standard of beauty for many, 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 many decades was light skin and long hair. Even this make-believe hair I have on right now is because it's a certain look I want to have. But there's some days I'll have a little short curly thing, and I'll have a little afro, and I'll have my own hair out. You know, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Now, for me, and this is something that I don't know if it's different for black women and white women, but for black women, I cannot speak for everybody. I can speak for most of the ones that I know. We grew up in a time when straightening combs and hair relaxers, even to the place where hair relaxers are causing cancer. Now they're discovering that hair relaxers, but that was given to us or put upon us when we were little kids. We didn't have a choice. You see what I'm saying?
and you know what I was doing in the 80s? The perm.
Trying to curl your hair. Exactly. You were trying to make your hair curly,
Yes.
and I'm trying to make my hair straight. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my hair straight, not just for beauty, but because you can't get a job unless you have straight hair. They're not going to take you seriously if you come in with curly hair. Even to this day, they had to do the Crown Act. This was a real act that had to be passed by Congress in order to allow women to come in with their natural hair, in order to have kids who are like you said, sports
Yes.
and all this other stuff. These kids are making them take their braids out and take
Schools
their
and sports.
They're doing all of these
Insane.
things. It's insane. Why is what naturally comes out of my God-given scalp offensive to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a difference between black women and white women. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's the kind of stuff that society, or even men, I have to say it, try to pit us against each other, try to do competition. This whole thing with Beyonce and Taylor Swift, it drives me nuts. Why are we comparing a woman in her 40s who has 3 children, married woman, with a girl in her 20s, single,
30,
and do you understand
Yes,
what I'm saying?
but yes.
Why are we comparing these two? There should be no comparison. Nobody was comparing Justin Bieber with Prince. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I know.
Why?
It's
but
because
they
they
love to pit women against each other.
And do you think now you're bringing this up, and I've noticed that it's always pitting women against women, but is it to keep us fighting separated so that we don't come together
And become strong and take
Yes.
over. This
Yes.
is what we need to do.
I wonder if subconsciously though,
Yeah.
that I've never quite gotten there. I'm just like, why do they keep doing that? But I wonder,
That is why.
because if we think of each other as other,
Yeah.
then we don't.
Come together.
Yeah, and we don't share stories, and we don't figure out like, hey, this is happening to you, this is happening to me. Why are we putting up with it, or whatever? Interesting. Yeah. But and just I'm just thinking this again was like, and finally like people are talking about it. That's why I think like talk conversation helps. But just even like the stuff with Britney Spears and Justin Bieber. I don't know how much, but just the
Oh, you mean Justin Timberlake?
yeah, sorry, good
yeah.
Lord, Justin.
So many
One of the
Justins. Yeah.
one of those guys. But just like the way they treat men.
Mm-hmm.
If
They let
something
him
was-
skate away. They let him skate away from the Janet Jackson thing. Justin Timberlake.
Yes!
He got off scot-free, and still to this day, Janet Jackson is never allowed to be in the Super Bowl. You know, there's a thing now where they Super Bowl Sundays is Janet Jackson Appreciation Day. That's like that's a new
I
meme
love that.
that's out.
And can I just
Yes.
say, like, who are making these rules? Because also,
Yes.
do you know that like any place that has the Super Bowl, they have to up the security, and the sex trafficking that happens during a Super Bowl
I did not know that.
is huge.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's bad. Like you can look that up, but the sex trafficking that happens around
Yeah.
Super Bowl, right? So these are the same people going to the Super Bowl
Yeah.
that are like also complaining about. It's just so hypocritical.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, but it's a whole culture.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big thing is we have to stop comparing ourselves beauty-wise to anybody else. We have to like deal with the bodies we've been given, deal with the, you know, and of course, if you want to, guess what? Because there's this whole thing of, oh, if a black woman does this, that means she's trying to be white. Okay, so if a white woman has black false eyelashes, what race is she trying to be? If a white woman has false nails, now these are real, but false nails, what race is she trying to be? If she has fake boobs, what race is she trying to be? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This whole thing of it has, oh, she must be trying to be white. Why?
Yeah.
White women have weaves too.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is stuff that they try to brainwash us and again pit us against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And not being able, because I don't think they want us to talk and have these conversations.
Oh, no.
And, you know, and this is a thing about body, but this happened in LA too. I was at waitressing, but there was this guy, oh my God, he would drive me crazy. Another waiter. Mm-hmm. He loved big boobs. He loved to tell me how much he loved big boobs. He also loved to tell me that I didn't have them.
What?
Right? Yes.
Inappropriate.
Oh, very. The whole culture at that place. It
Inappropriate.
was so bad. But Marilyn Monroe. I dressed up as Marilyn Monroe for Halloween, right?
Oh.
And so I put fake boobs in, because whatever.
Right.
And he was like, oh, you're just so much more beautiful with big boobs.
How
If you'd get a
dare.
boob job, I would date you.
How dare he?
And I was like, this is why I will never get a boob job, so I will
my
never,
God.
ever date men like
Oh
you.
my
But
God.
literally, like, those were the people I worked with for so...
Wow.
Now, that was a white guy. That was
Wow. You see?
Yeah.
Wow. No, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but that's just a body thing. Now, here's a question. This might be uncomfortable and weird, but I, want to ask it.
do it.
Okay, so it feels like there is, tell me I'm wrong or different or whatever, but a different standard of beauty for white women, black women. Totally could be wrong, so hit me with it. Mm-hmm. And it is changing. Thank God body types are changing. But it feels like for a while, like, you looked at movies where like white women had to be super thin, no hips, no butt, all of that.
Yep.
Black women could have more could
Yes.
have more curves.
Yep.
But if a white woman had more of a body like Beyonce or whatever,
Right.
they either wouldn't get the job
Right.
or there were things that were said or whatever.
No, you're absolutely right. There is a difference. And again, we can't speak for all, but there are a lot of brothers who like, yeah, I need a girl that got booty. She got to be like, bam, pow, 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 pow. Yeah. So they'll, whatever. When I don't want no flat chested, I don't want no whatever. Again, like the guy that was talking about. But that's okay. To be honest, that's a preference.
Yeah.
But when you are not hiring someone, because of it, then that's problematic.
Yeah.
When you are cutting into my livelihood, I was just watching an episode of, all I watch is old shows now. I just binge everything. L.A. Law. Remember that show, L.A. Law?
Yes!
I love that show.
Oh my gosh.
And they had this episode of this woman who was fired because she was too fat. A white woman, but she was fired because she was too fat. And they were saying that, no, she's not gonna, our clients are not going to like her and whatever, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but I was the same size when you hired me. But now that a new manager took over, he is the one that said, So the body image, the whole old body shaming and all that kind of stuff, again, that's something that society has taught us. But if you notice, a lot of the commercials now have big women now.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Oh, I think there is there's a push. Well, and I think also ever since streaming service. So I feel like Hollywood movies have not made the switch. Some of like CBS, NBC, like the big networks. But if you go to streaming services and commercials, a lot more representation for different races, different body shapes.
Yes, beautiful big women. I
man.
love Lizzo. I think
Oh,
she's
my
fantastic.
gosh.
You know why I
Yes.
love her? Because she loves herself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But I think there's a lot more representation of women of all. I don't think it's fully accepted yet.
It's not. No, it's not fully accepted.
But it's better.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
And again, we as women, I think, have to accept ourselves as we are, love ourselves first before we can even interact and go into the world. And it means loving our hair texture, loving our skin color, loving our big or small or whatever.
Yeah.
There was this one girl, gorgeous girl that I worked with in California, and they used to tease her for being too thin. And I'm like, she's gorgeous. Leave her alone. And she was like, people always tell me I need to eat more and eat whatever. I'm like, are you insane? Don't listen to them. You are gorgeous.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Maybe they don't want us to be happy or just always trying to.
They don't want us to be happy. Because if we're sad and if we're insecure, then we'll just cater to the men.
And we'll need them.
Yeah.
Because that's where I think, like, if we really do love ourselves and love our bodies, like, we don't need approval. We don't need, like, either a man is gonna, like, either the man is gonna love us for us, or if not, then, like, well, you're lost, goodbye. But if we need them to, if we're insecure, then we're always trying to please, or I don't know, there's something, and we're less than.
And that's what insecure men want us to be. I have to say insecure because not all men are like that.
No. We have good husbands.
Thank you. I was just going to say, you and I have lucked out. This is not about our husbands. Our husbands love strong women. That's
Stan runs Magic Mice is awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And Gerard, who has a beautiful wife that we love as well.
Yes.
So this is the kind of stuff we're talking about, though. We lucked out. We were just laughing about that a little bit before we started.
Well, did we luck out?
We lucked out because we have men who are not afraid of intelligent, beautiful, strong women.
I don't think it's luck, though.
It is.
No, how could I wish you wouldn't marry anybody. I would rather be single with
And see, now let's talk about single for a second.
Yeah.
So now you're talking about all kinds of stuff now.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing.
Yeah.
There's this whole stigma on a woman who is single all her life. What's wrong with her? You see what I'm saying?
Not as much anymore, but I guess you still think
it's still there. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, tell me.
A good friend of mine wanted to get a condo. She had gone through all of the rigmarole, paperwork, everything for it. She had the money for it. Everything was okay. And then at the last minute, they were like, no. So she was like, what? So then the person, the retail whatever, manager or whatever, was trying to tell her, well, maybe if you promise to do 6 months ahead or whatever, maybe they'll see and whatever. She had the money ready. And they still told her no. She was white, but she's single. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you, there is still a thing against single women. Why? Because guess what? They're afraid of what boyfriend she'll bring into the buildings. You see, this is the kind of one of those places where they choose who they allow to be in the building. So when if she were married, then they would see a couple and they know exactly these are the two people that are going to be coming in and out of this place. Do you understand? The only thing, she had the money. She's white. She had the money. And they still turned her down.
Wow. Well, I still think, I mean, I don't think it was luck. I think it was like, I'm going to.
When I say luck, I mean, because, you know, I don't believe luck. We're blessed, you know, we're blessed and we have beautiful husbands who love us and who are great and so forth. And everybody has that. Now, you are also a mom. I am not. So let's talk a little bit about that. As far as women, there is a stigma that if you do not have children, something is wrong with you.
Yes.
And people have no respect, and we got to get to the place of, you know, as far as just asking, how come you don't have kids? You know, people have asked me that.
Oh my God. And now I couldn't, the reason I have a child is because we adopted, but I could not have children. And it would drive me freaking crazy because what am I going to like stop at the grocery store and sell? Here's the thing. We tried, couldn't, we went, I took some tests. I had some procedures.
Nosy people.
Still couldn't, like what?
Nosy.
You know, and I also have friends that don't have kids. And now that I do have a child and the child has some issues, I think, not everybody should have children because your life, you can do more things with your life. So, don't judge people without kids because it's hard.
It's not for everybody.
It's not.
Parenthood is not for everybody. And guess what?
No.
Marriage is not for everybody.
No, and it doesn't work out for half the people anyway.
It doesn't.
So.
I have so many friends that I was a bridesmaid in their thing in our 20s, and in their 40s, they're divorced. And they're like, you made me spend all that money on that stupid dress and wear that goofy shoes and dye the shoes and all that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're divorced.
Yeah.
So I got married later, which is great because I think that's the only reason. Because to be honest, listen, my father was married 4 times. My grandmother was married 3 times. So I honestly thought I'd be on my 3rd husband by now. But but the beautiful thing is, got married later in life. This is the one. Yep. We've been together for 20 years. We ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But again, like, what difference does it make whether someone's single, whether they
Are
have
a parent,
kids,
right?
Or not? Like, what?
But it's all on the women. Men don't get
ask
those questions in the grocery store trying to get your food at the Piggly Wiggly. You don't get. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's women. There's
what do you say?
something
What do you
wrong.
say when someone says
Well, I was just like, ooh, I can't afford them. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, kids are expensive. You know?
Oh my God,
I'm like, no, what I really say is, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer.
And that should be the end of it.
Yeah.
But if it's a Karen I'm talking to, that's never the end of it.
Because they might end up like you,
Right.
Karen.
That's what I'm saying. Because they might end up like you. Or having a teacher like you.
Yes.
Or having you know what I'm saying? That's the scariest thing. Even when I was a kid, I never had baby dolls. I'm just not motherly. This is not for me.
And I don't. First of all, we can't all have kids. That's just not
Right.
population-wise doesn't work. But
Right.
also, yeah, like it's not for everybody. And when you think of some of the people that make breakthroughs or become change the world.
Yeah.
Can't always be a parent to do that or you can be a guy to do that because you don't ever see your children.
Thank you.
Steve Jobs.
Thank you.
He did a lot of interesting.
And
Was he a great dad?
No, he wasn't a great dad because he didn't even claim his child until years later. He kept saying, "That child is not mine." Even after they brought the parental whatever, what's the word?
Birth certificate? Parental?
No. What's the word they call it? It's not DNA. It's paternity test. They showed him the paternity test, and he still kept saying no.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later that thank goodness they made amends before he died. But I'm just saying.
But he didn't have to
That's
be
an
around.
example.
Yeah.
That's an example.
Anyway.
Oprah hasn't had kids.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And she
It's not
probably
for
couldn't-
everybody.
yeah, exactly.
Who knows what her reason is, but she didn't.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? I think she had like a weird thing when she was a teenager that somebody, sexually assaulted her and blah, blah, blah. And so she did get pregnant, but, it didn't happen. Whatever the case is, because she's been very open about that.
Right.
But she could have years later and just...
Didn't? Yeah.
And that's her business.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is it just women that ask you? Or do men ever ask you?
Men, this is funny. So men, because in New York, maybe on a bus or a train, they don't even go to the, how come you didn't? They're like, how many kids you got? How many kids you got? Because they want to ascertain as to whether the conversation go any further. I'm like, first of all, the conversation with your toothless self is not going to go any further. But do you understand what I'm saying? So it's usually that kind of thing. I'm like, none. You ain't got no kids? Blah, blah, that kind of thing. Right. And I'm like, sir, this conversation is not going to go well for you. So, you know what I mean? Right. So usually that's the kind of thing for men. No, most men don't say, how come you don't have any children? No, it's women.
And is it just white women, or is it white women, black women?
Oh, white women, black women, everybody.
All women.
But to be honest, mostly white women.
That's interesting.
And then you know why? Because they're like, you're so good with kids. Because I am good with kids.
yeah.
I'm a great teacher.
Yeah.
I have taught from preschool all the way up to high school.
Yeah.
I am great with kids. But I'm so great with kids because I can send them home. They don't come home with me.
Yeah. Yeah. They're totally different. Yeah. But interesting. And I think from me, I don't know, but I would say mostly white women have asked me, about having kids.
And that's so personal.
Oh man, yeah. And yeah, there's only been a few times where I just like, oh yeah, they want to know? Let me lay it on them.
Lay it all out, and then their eyes are glazed.
And they feel a little sorry they asked that question.
But let's talk about other medical things. I don't know how much time we have, but you guys are going to let us know what time, right? Yeah. But a medical thing that we got to talk about with black women in the medical, dealing with doctors. There's so many videos that I've seen and documentaries on how black women are treated differently with regards to doctors or with regards to any kind of medical staff. I personally have a story that blew me away. I had some sort of workman's comp injury from a job, and the doctor wanted me to go back to regular duty, and I said, no, I need to stay on light duty because I'm still in pain and so forth. And he was like, well, those football players, we patch them up and they get right back on that field. And I said, I am not a football player, and I'm not getting back on anybody's field. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. So clearly I went ahead and got another doctor, and I also got a lawyer for the workman's comp thing because I said, I see now that I'm going to have to take this to the next level. It ain't going to just stay at the work. I have to get someone to advocate for me because, so that right there.
Was that a white?
A white doctor, white male doctor.
Okay.
Definitely. And there have been other times when white male doctors have said, oh, this doesn't hurt. I'm like, yes, it does. What? Yeah. They'll tell me, oh, this doesn't hurt. Oh, whatever. Yes, it does. I'm telling you, it hurts. Because, again, it goes back to, and people say, oh, you can't take everything back to slavery. Yes, I can. They did not see us as human beings. So they see a black woman and they think somehow I'm stronger. Sometimes somehow I must have some kind of threshold for pain that white women don't have. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Whoa.
They don't look at us as people. And I'm not going to say all because I've had some wonderful white doctors in my time. But mostly the white male doctors have been very dismissive.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, I stopped seeing male doctors, like a long time ago, right? But that was because I was assaulted by one and then another one,
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, we got to get...
and then this other one, and then another one was giving me a breast exam and said, wow, I think you'd be a great candidate for breast augmentation. I know. So I was like,
oh my Lord.
Never again will I ever see a male doctor, period. So I always see women. So I don't, and that was like,
that's insane.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I stopped. Like,
that's insane.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought out mammogram though, because I saw that you posted that you did a mammogram recently. And let's make a little commercial right here, PSA, because I am a breast cancer survivor. I have my mammogram scheduled for March 1st. 2019, I had my lumpectomy. It was early detection, and that is what saved my life. Please, 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 let's put this little PSA here now. We are both hardcore mammogram proponents.
Yeah.
But speaking of hardcore, they got to come up with a better way. These things hurt.
Oh,
These things
my
hurt so
Lord.
much. Oh,
It's squishy.
Lord.
I know.
Squishy.
I know.
It's too much.
But I do, this brings me back to, like, women's health and research on women's health and even just, like, women's vaginas and orgasms and just, like, I almost didn't want to say that word, but I'm like, it's just a vagina.
You gotta say it,
right? And I read a book, it's called Come As You Are, and it's just a beautiful book. I know. But it's not like that, but it's like that,
Yes.
But it's just written by this woman with all of this research on women's body parts, how they work, and women's desires, and just like, because all the research was always about men's bodies and how they worked and all of that, and it's like, it's been so lacking getting to know a female body and how they work and all of that. So I feel like that is slowly starting to shift too, but I just also think, like, back when I would have a male doctor, they just wouldn't understand. I was having painful sex at one point, and he's like, well, just something. And then he said, I can't remember what he said, but he's like, use a condom, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, you don't understand, blah, blah. And he just wouldn't believe. I was like, dude, I know my body.
Yeah.
I know, I know of what I speak, so please don't say that. I can't even remember the story now, but
condescending, whatever.
yes,
it was.
condescending.
Very,
didn't understand what I was talking about, or even what
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, I think that's starting to shift. But then finally, I think we're seeing more women in. Like, it was hard to get a woman gynecologist forever. I was like...
There are way more women now. I'm glad.
Yeah.
All three of my oncologists at Duke, I love Duke, thank you Duke, and thank you Project Access, are women. My surgical oncologist, my radiation oncologist, and also the one that I have now, my medical oncologist. All women.
White or...
Two of them white, and my medical oncologist is a sister. So yeah,
my gyno is a sister.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the kind of things that are coming and starting to come. But when we were younger, it was impossible to get a female doctor. So I'm glad things are getting better with that for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So we covered violence. We covered being afraid to go jogging or going to our elevator in the car. We covered health issues, whatever. What are some? Are there any things? I hope you guys put stuff in the comments so that we can answer them after you guys see this broadcast, because this is a great broadcast. I can sit here all night. This is fantastic.
We can just chat.
Yeah. What are some other things that we didn't cover? You mentioned two things, and I don't want to just glaze over it, because I also am a survivor of sexual abuse. And you mentioned sexual assault, sexual abuse, sexual innuendo. I definitely have been through that as well. And that's something that if black women and white women would come together and have a conversation about, as opposed to being ashamed of it and not wanting to talk about it. And we got to talk about it with our daughters and our sons.
Yes.
And we have to believe our daughters when they say it. If a little girl is uncomfortable sitting in Uncle so-and-so's lap, don't make her.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. She may not be able to articulate it, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that shared experience. And I think women need to come together and talk about it more. But I also think that we need to educate men more, because they go, or they can't, they don't understand the fear. They don't understand even I think some men really don't understand, if your boss is coming on to you, the position that puts, it's not flattery. I'm not flattered by that. It puts me in an awkward position, and I have to figure out, how do I navigate that, and that hasn't happened to me in forever, but it used to happen especially when I was a waitress in early 20s, and you don't know as much.
You went to the boss and told them and reported the guy, and they did not.
The problem was one of those bosses also would sexually harass me. So how would he? How would he?
You had to get
whatever.
Out of there.
Yeah, I did. But again, if we have more conversations, but we also have conversations with our sons and our husbands and just men in general about our experiences, and then why, so that they don't go, oh, don't worry about it, or that's nothing. And it took me so long to really trust my my gut of something's off, or this, because you think oh, I'm reading it wrong. I gotta be nice. I gotta be the thing, right? And it took me so many times to go, okay, Melissa, your gut is kind of on.
Yes,
now I kind of know. So, and now I trust it right away. But also you tell other people, it got weird. They didn't do anything, but it got really weird, and I know it got weird.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, no. Because they don't understand.
And they wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Listen, two of my abusers were pastors. So I knew immediately I could not go to the church and report them.
Yeah.
And I was a teenager. So I definitely didn't report it to anybody. I didn't even tell my mom until I was in my 20s, until I was far, far away from them. Do you understand what I'm saying? But this is the kind of stuff that happens all the time.
And about women, so this might out some people, but my father-in-law tried to molest me and sexually abuse me. And I went to women... And they didn't friggin' believe me. They believed him.
Oh
that's
God.
The hard part. That's too, is
God.
the hard part of going to women and them not
And they
believing
don't
you.
believe
You're
you.
you're a woman.
Yeah.
Why would you, why would I make that up?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hard part too.
It
It's
is
not
hard.
being believed. And obviously men don't believe near as much, but when women don't believe, or they side with the men.
They side with the men. And the scary thing is, women who don't believe other women, is because there are women who do lie. about, and they make it bad for the rest of us who have
Yes,
really
yes.
been through. If a woman is found out to have lied on a man saying that he did something sexually
Yeah.
to her and he really didn't, she needs to be put in jail.
Yeah,
In
I
jail,
agree, I
because you're
agree.
making it horrible for the rest of us who really have been
Yeah.
through this.
Yeah, and that's such a small number, but it's there.
I don't know
And
if it's that small.
You don't?
Especially, see, this is
See, I
again.
guess I
Look at
trust-
Look at Emmett Till, and I'm going way back with
Okay.
that. But then
Yes.
we're gonna go way back, and then we're
Okay.
gonna go forward to
Okay.
today. Jonathan Majors. So Jonathan Majors is an actor who had like 3 or 4 big films that came out, and then now he has like nothing. Everything is taken away from him because. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jonathan Majors?
I know a little bit, so tell
Okay.
me more. Okay.
It was a white girl,
Okay.
white girlfriend, who said he abused her or did something to her or whatever. Then she recanted, but it's too late. He already lost the Marvel deal. He already lost the Disney. He already lost the Army deal. He already lost the movies. He was in the Ant-Man, the most recent Ant-Man thing. He was in the most recent. My husband's gonna kill me because I can't think of the names of anything right now. But he was in, I think, Loki. Am I saying it right? Yeah, he was in Loki. He was a. People who watch these things know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Big,
Is she
major
the one that
things.
like? There's video of her like stalking him. Or
Yes, he's running away and she's running behind him.
So what is happening
But
to her?
well, I don't know what's happening to her, but I know
they're
what's happening to
prosecuting.
him. He's lost all his deals. So even though she recanted, it's too late. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Women who make up stories. Now, granted, other stuff is coming to light that's saying, yeah, he has been abusive with other girlfriends or whatever. That's neither here nor there. We're talking about that one
Yeah.
where he lost all these deals.
Yep.
And it happened to be a white woman.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And years ago, so many black men were lynched because a white woman said, he whistled at me. He looked at me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Trust me, it's happened. And we only know the few of the stories that we know. We don't know the hundreds of thousands of cases where black men were killed
Yeah.
because a white woman said, he did this, that, and the third to me. And then later recanted.
Right.
Even the Emmett Till lady, years later, she recanted. So that's the kind of stuff that, and again, talking about black women and white women,
Yeah.
makes some black women skittish around white women and distrustful.
Yeah. That would, and I think we said this on the live that didn't work, but are we talking about this was several years ago, but the white women that like they were both in, I think Central Park, so in New York, but she had a dog not on a leash, supposed to be on a leash. A black man asked her nicely to put the dog on the leash, freaked out. Threatened to call the cops on him. He's like, okay, I'm not doing anything, But she basically called the cops on him, said she felt scared, threatened by him. Well, luckily, there was enough information. They believed the black man, not the white woman, and so she was prosecuted.
Yeah.
So I am hoping that they start prosecuting people that lie,
Yeah, they have to.
because you're right, because then men are getting in trouble that didn't do anything, and women that have things happen to them are not being
afraid
believed.
to tell.
Yeah,
Because they're not being believed,
Yeah.
and they're afraid to tell. So the men who really did do horrible things are getting away scot-free.
yeah. Do you think that black women or even brown women, whatever, who are assaulted, do you believe that like if you and I both went and said this thing happened to me, do you think I would be believed before you? Like, do you think that plays a part at all in people believing?
Yes. Depending on who it is we're telling.
Yeah.
You and I, all things being considered, you go to the police precinct and say something, and I go to the police precinct. God forbid, what if we're saying it about a cop?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be hard for them to believe either one of us, but they at least would believe it. If I come to them first and say, this cop did such and such the third to me, this, that, and the third to me, they're like, man, but he's one of our police officers, he's whatever. And then you come in after, they might look into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even look at little white girls and little black girls as far as missing children.
Yeah, talk about that.
They will go all out to look for a little white child that is missing, Amber Alert and all of that, but a little black girl can go missing and there's not much talk about it. There's a TV show that's out right now called Lord, why am I forgetting everything? It's with the black girl that was on Shameless, but she's like the main character now. Jay, look it up for me, please, please. But yeah, so there's a TV show about that, and she literally has that in the opening segment. She shows a picture of a little white girl, and then she's talking to reporters, and there's like, who is this? And they're like, oh, we know who that is, blah 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 blah, because that person's picture is plastered everywhere all over the country. And then she says, now who is this little black girl? Nobody knew who it was because nobody's looking for the little black girl.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Again, it's about the value of a life.
Yep. And do you think, someone mentioned this to me, and I don't know, like when Ukraine was being bombed and we were seeing that, as opposed to like when we see things happening in Africa or whatever, like more people were disturbed because it was little white children. And I think that like that looks like my kid.
Yes! People identify with who it is they see.
Yeah.
Yes. What's the name of the show? Found. The name of the show is Found. It's a brand new show. Just came out, and the lead character is the black girl that was on Shameless. Shanola Hampton. I love her.
That's a great name.
Yeah. I love her. So yes, look for that show. But that is what her thing is. She's the kind of person who looks for kids that nobody else is looking for. Who missing, who are abused, whatever, because she herself was abused and kidnapped as a child and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? What a great show.
Yeah.
And a lot of these stories are based on true stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff as far as, as far as, how many minutes? Yeah. As far as who's valued. I hate to say this, but years ago, and believe me, I am not a fan of this person at all. But years ago, the whole O.J. Simpson trial, and it was like a year-long trial, and everybody was going all crazy about it, and people were up in arms and so forth. If it had been his first wife, Marguerite Simpson, we would have heard about it for a couple of days, and that would have been it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Marguerite looked more like me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We would not have heard about this thing for no full year.
Yep.
Value of a life. People are going to get mad at me with that. Put it in the comments. Get mad. Fight me. Fight me on that.
Yeah.
That's real talk.
Yeah.
We would have heard about it for a few days, and that's it.
Yep. Interesting. All right. Any final thoughts? We're going to do this again, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is part 1 in Black History Month, so we got to do part 2 in Women's History Month, so we'll have some more stuff on that.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yes,
but any final parting thoughts?
Just women love women. If you don't have if you're black and you don't have any white women friends, get one. If you're white and you don't have any black women friends, get one. Now, if you're black, just go to Whole Foods. There's a lot of white women in there.
Weaver Street, around here. Yep.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because it's not anyone's fault that you've shared this with me before, that you grew up where you were like only around white people. You weren't around any black people.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I only grew up around black and brown people too. My friends were black, Hispanic, and I'm not supposed to say Hispanic anymore. Spanish speaking, or Caribbean. Those are my friends, and that was it. It wasn't until I got older when I went to school with white people. Anyway, go ahead.
It was and when I moved to LA when I was 18, that's when that's a melting pot, a beautiful melting pot of cultures and traditions and religions, and I mean I grew up with Christians or non-Christians it was such a small town. So that, but immersing yourself in other cultures and traditions and people, and it opens up your mind to different experiences, and then same experiences too.
Yes,
right?
So many same experiences.
Yeah.
Listen, Skip Gates, Henry Louis Gates, he's always saying that we are all 99.9% the same, except for this outer layer.
Yep.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Thank you.
Talk more.
Yes.
Have conversations
Have
more.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back.